One of the most common things you'll see from rivals in the same division is some chirpiness whenever anybody gets hit by a pitch, as we've most recently seen in the back-to-back series between the Padres and Dodgers, when it felt like somebody was getting hit by a mid-90s fastball every night, with varying degrees of intention behind them. Another thing that usually comes with this is the posturing post-game, with guys making subtle threats towards each other and throwing shade in backhanded ways. But you know what you rarely see? A player outright humble himself after being at the center of a bench-clearing altercation, apologizing in no uncertain terms for his part in causing a scene. That's exactly what Willson Contreras just did after a contentious end to a game between the Cardinals and Cubs. We'll get to that, but let's do the breakdown of the overall game first. Shota Imanaga was on the mound, making his first start since May 4th, managing to pitch a scoreless first after getting Contreras to swing and miss at a high fastball. This takes us to the second, where, with 2 outs, Michael Busch would get a fastball right down the center of the plate and crush it out to right field, giving the Cubbies a 1-0 lead on a borderline no-doubter. Nico Horner would then make a very nice play to lead off the bottom of that inning, sliding into the outfield to rob Nolan Arenado. After a couple of relatively uneventful frames, it was in the 4th that the Cubs would finally manage to push across another run. As following this nice catch on a line drive by the future Hall of Famer Nolan, Ian Happ would draw a bases-loaded walk with 2 outs, extending Chicago's lead to 2-0. But starting pitcher Andre Pallante would manage to buckle down to retire Kyle Tucker to end the inning, inducing a ground ball that was handled nicely by Mason Wynn up the middle. Imanaga would keep dealing through the 5th inning, ending his start with just 77 pitches thrown, 3 Ks, and 2 base runners given up. In the bottom of the 7th, it was Cubs pitcher Brad Keller's turn to work out of a tough spot, doing so with the help of a sliding catch from Pete Crow Armstrong in deep right center field. After the Cubs got another run, courtesy of a botched intentional rundown by Contreras, the newly transitioned first baseman, it was the Cards' final turn to hit, with closing pitcher Daniel Palencia attempting to get the final 3 outs. Alec Burleson, however, would make sure things would not start well for the big righty, as he lined a double up the right center field gap as part of what has been a breakout season for the 26-year-old. This brought Contreras to the plate, who, then in a 1-2 count, would take a 101-mile-per-hour fastball near his face, with the offering grazing off of him to put 2 runners on. This obviously did not sit very well with the former Cub, who proceeded to look towards the mound and start jawing with Palencia, who honestly seemed a bit confused. After he got to first base, the talking didn't stop either, repeatedly calling to Daniel multiple times. This even prompted Burleson on second to give him the universal, "let's take it down a notch" sign. Things would calm down for a moment as Palencia got back to work, striking out Nolan Arenado and Thomas Ajazi back-to-back on a nasty slider and another triple-digit heater. This meant Nolan Gorman was the last hope for St. Louis, and on a 2-2, would take a perfectly located slider over the low and outside corner for strike 3. You'd think with the game being over now that the conflict would be too, but Palencia himself wasn't done, turning to Contreras and shouting something as he celebrated the save. This ended up resulting in the benches clearing. I'm sure a lot of people at this point assumed that this was going to bleed over into future contests between the two teams, maybe with a couple more hit by pitches mixed in there, but after the game, Contreras decided to take it in a different direction, assuming full responsibility for the incident in an act of humility you'll rarely ever see from a professional athlete. He said, quote, "My reaction was bad. I apologize to the Chicago Cubs for the way I reacted. I don't want to fight them." And Palencia did his part as well post-game by saying, "I don't want to hit that guy. I've been watching that guy since I was a kid," which I read as him having too much respect for the former Cub to throw at him in this way. I'm just glad to see the whole situation de-escalate before somebody ended up getting hurt, as it's clear when you're throwing 100-mile-per-hour plus fastballs, the last thing you want is for them to be aimed at players intentionally. Now, thank you so much for watching, and please remember that if you ever see anything you'd like to see detailed in the Made the Cut video, whether that be a specific play, player, or narrative surrounding a team or something, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I do end up using your idea, I'll of course give you a shout out. Thank you so much once again, and I'll see you in the next one.